Raymond Thompson stood before the Galactic Council, acutely aware that his next words could determine whether he'd be laughed out of the chamber or seduce a gorgeous alien princess. As Earth's first representative to this august body of advanced species, he felt the weight of humanity's future on his shoulders. The Grand Assembly Hall on planet Xylox buzzed with anticipation. Delegates from across the stars filled the tiered seating, their varied anatomies a testament to the diversity of sentient life. At the center, elevated above the rest, sat Rhaegar, the stern Denobulan council leader. His piercing gaze fixed on Raymond, a mix of disdain and amusement playing across his features. Raymond cleared his throat, acutely aware of the silence that fell over the chamber. He began his carefully prepared speech, outlining Earth's rapid advancements in space travel and diplomacy. The words, practiced countless times, now seemed to stick in his throat as he struggled with the complex alien pronunciations. A ripple of laughter spread through the audience. Rhaegar's voice cut through the murmurs. Is this truly the best Earth has to offer? A bumbling ape who can't even master basic language skills? The chamber erupted in raucous laughter. Raymond felt his face flush, but he stood his ground. His eyes darted to a private viewing box where Princess Zara, Rhaegar's daughter and heir to the Denobulan throne, sat watching. Unlike the others, she leaned forward, her expression one of curiosity rather than mockery. Emboldened by her interest, Raymond pressed on. He spoke of humanity's resilience, their ability to adapt and overcome. But Rhaegar, noticing his daughter's attention, abruptly cut Raymond's speech short. We've heard enough. This council will take a recess to deliberate on Earth's petition. As the delegates filed out, Raymond overheard a hushed conversation between two alien representatives. They spoke in urgent tones about a classified threat, the Vorax, a hostile race poised to invade council space within the year. Raymond's blood ran cold. Earth's survival now hinged not just on council membership, but on forging crucial alliances against this looming threat. A plan began to form in Raymond's mind. If he could win Princess Zara's favor, he might sway the Denobulan delegation and, by extension, the entire council. It was a long shot, but with humanity's fate in the balance, he had to try. As the council reconvened, Raymond made his move. He requested a private audience with Princess Zara, citing a desire to discuss potential cultural exchanges. Rhaegar's eyes narrowed, but he reluctantly agreed, unaware of Raymond's true intentions or the Vorax threat lurking on the horizon. The council adjourned for the day, leaving Raymond to prepare for his meeting with the princess. He knew he had one chance to turn the tables on his alien critics and secure humanity's place among the stars. As he left the chamber, Raymond couldn't help but smile at the irony. He had come to Xylox to prove humanity's worth, and now he found himself on an unexpected mission, to save the galaxy by seducing an alien princess. Raymond's heart raced as he left the council chamber, his mind already formulating strategies for his upcoming meeting with Princess Zara. He knew this was more than just a diplomatic opportunity. It was humanity's chance to secure its place among the stars and potentially protect the universe from an imminent threat. Returning to his quarters, Raymond immersed himself in research. He pored over databanks filled with information on Denobulan customs, etiquette, and history. Hours flew by as he absorbed every detail, from the proper way to bow to the intricacies of Denobulan honorifics. As the appointed time approached, Raymond made his way to the designated meeting chamber. The grand hall took his breath away, its walls adorned with shimmering, holographic displays chronicling Denobulan history. Scenes of great battles, technological advancements, and cosmic exploration danced before his eyes, telling the story of a civilization far older than humanity's. The soft hiss of the chamber doors announced Princess Zara's arrival. Raymond turned, momentarily stunned by her appearance. Her iridescent skin caught the ambient light, creating a mesmerizing display of shifting colors. She moved with a grace that spoke of centuries of royal breeding. Composing himself, Raymond executed a perfect Denobulan bow, his right hand placed over his heart in the traditional gesture of respect. "Your Highness," he said, his pronunciation carefully practiced, "I am honored by your presence." A flicker of surprise crossed Zara's features, quickly replaced by a pleased smile. "You've done your research, Mr. Thompson," she said, her voice musical and lilting. I'm impressed. Earth values learning and adaptation, Your Highness, Raymond replied, straightening. We believe in understanding those we wish to befriend. They began to discuss cultural exchanges, with Raymond subtly steering the conversation towards Earth's unique qualities. He spoke of humanity's resilience in the face of adversity, their adaptability to new challenges, and their insatiable curiosity about the universe. Our history is filled with examples of overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds, Raymond explained, gesturing to a holographic display of a Denobulan space battle. Like your people, we've faced our share of conflicts and disasters, but each time, we've emerged stronger, more unified, and more determined to reach for the stars. Princess Zara listened intently, her eyes sharp and inquisitive. And yet your species is so young compared to ours. How can you be sure you're ready for the challenges of galactic citizenship? Raymond was about to respond when a loud crash interrupted their conversation. Both turned to see a Xyloxian servant standing over the shattered remains of an ornate vase. The servant's eyes were wide with panic. Without hesitation, Raymond lunged forward. His hand shot out, catching a delicate crystalline structure that had been perched atop the vase. It teetered on the edge of his fingers for a heart-stopping moment before he secured his grip. Princess Zara gasped. The tear of Denobula! You saved it! Raymond carefully placed the priceless artifact on a nearby pedestal, his mind racing. The servant's clumsiness seemed oddly out of place for the meticulously trained Xyloxian staff. As the servant hurriedly apologized and scrambled to clean up the mess, Raymond caught a glimpse of an unusual device on the being's wrist. Your Highness, Raymond said in a low voice, I don't mean to overstep, but something doesn't feel right about this situation. Zara's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? That servant, his movements, his reaction, they seem off for a Xyloxian. And did you notice the device on his wrist? I've never seen anything like it in my research of council technology. The princess studied Raymond for a moment, then nodded slightly. You have sharp eyes, Mr. Thompson. What do you propose? If you're willing, I think we should follow him. Discreetly, of course. It might be nothing, but in my experience, it's better to be cautious when it comes to security. A spark of excitement lit Zara's eyes. Very well. Lead the way, Mr. Thompson. Let's see if your human instincts prove as valuable as you claim. They slipped out of the chamber, following the suspicious servant at a distance. Raymond's pulse quickened as they wound through the labyrinthine corridors of the council building. He explained his concerns about potential security threats in hushed tones, noting how the servant seemed to be heading towards a restricted area. As they turned a corner, they heard a voice up ahead. Pressing themselves against the wall, Raymond and Zara inched closer, straining to listen. Our defensive capabilities are substantial, but there are weaknesses, the voice, unmistakably belonging to the servant, said. The council remains unaware of our presence. The invasion can proceed as planned. Raymond's blood ran cold. The Vorax threat he'd overheard earlier was real, and this spy was feeding them information. He turned to Princess Zara, whose face had drained of color. We need to act, Raymond whispered. Your Highness, can you create a diversion? I'll try to subdue him. Zara nodded, her royal composure returning. Be careful, Mr. Thompson. If you're right about this, we're dealing with a dangerous individual. As Zara stepped around the corner, calling out as if lost and confused, Raymond crept along the shadows. He saw the spy, now clearly not a Xyloxian, tense at Zara's approach. In that moment of distraction, Raymond struck. He tackled the spy from behind, using his weight to pin the alien to the ground. They grappled fiercely, rolling across the floor as the spy fought to break free. Raymond managed to grab the alien's wrist, smashing the communication device against the hard floor. Zara's voice rang out, calling for security. Within moments, armed guards swarmed the area, securing the Vorax spy. As the adrenaline faded, Raymond realized he was breathing heavily, his diplomatic attire now rumpled and torn. Princess Zara approached him, her eyes wide with a mixture of shock and admiration. Mr. Thompson, that was impressive. You've certainly proved that humans can be quite resourceful in a crisis. Raymond straightened, trying to regain his composure. "Thank you, Your Highness. I only hope this incident demonstrates the value Earth can bring to the galactic community. Our adaptability, our instincts, they could be assets in facing threats like the Vorax." Zara nodded thoughtfully. "Indeed. I believe we have much more to discuss, Mr. Thompson. Perhaps over dinner? I find myself curious to learn more about Earth's approach to security and diplomacy." As word of the incident spread through the council, Raymond felt a shift in the air. The dismissive looks from alien delegates were re-imbued with curious glances and respectful nods. Even Rhaegar, when informed of his daughter's involvement in Raymond's actions, grudgingly acknowledged the human's capabilities. "You will address the council again tomorrow," Rhaegar announced, his tone less hostile than before. "We are interested in hearing more about what Earth has to offer." Raymond nodded, his mind already racing with plans for his dinner with Princess Zara and his second chance before the council. As he returned to his quarters to prepare, he realized that this was more than just an opportunity to win over the princess or secure humanity's place among the stars. It was a chance to unite the galaxy against a common threat and prove that humanity's unique qualities could make a real difference in the cosmic order. With renewed purpose, Raymond began to formulate his strategy. He had to find a way to convey the urgency of the Vorax threat without revealing that he had overheard classified information. Moreover, he needed to position Earth as a valuable ally in the coming conflict. As he reviewed his notes and considered his approach, Raymond knew that the fate of humanity, and possibly the entire galaxy, rested on his next moves. Raymond adjusted his collar as he entered the private dining chamber, his eyes immediately drawn to the breathtaking view of Xylox's twin moons hanging in the star-studded sky. Princess Zara stood by the panoramic window, her iridescent skin shimmering in the moonlight. "Mr. Thompson," she greeted him with a smile, "I hope you find the view to your liking." "It's spectacular, Your Highness," Raymond replied, joining her at the window, "though I must admit it pales in comparison to the company." Zara's skin rippled with a blush of color. "You're quite the diplomat, aren't you?" As they took their seats, Raymond steered the conversation towards Earth's history and culture, carefully emphasizing humanity's unique qualities. He recounted tales of human explorers venturing into uncharted territories, of scientists making groundbreaking discoveries in the face of skepticism, and of ordinary people coming together to overcome natural disasters. "It's fascinating," Zara said, leaning forward. "Your species seems to thrive on challenges. How do you manage to adapt so quickly?" Raymond smiled, sensing an opportunity. "It's in our nature, Your Highness. Humans have always been problem solvers. We see obstacles not as barriers, but as puzzles to be solved." He went on to describe how Earth's diverse ecosystems had shaped human ingenuity, from the development of agriculture in arid regions to the construction of cities in inhospitable climates. With each example, he could see Zara's interest growing, her eyes wide with curiosity. "And this adaptability," she mused, "how might it be applied to galactic challenges?" Before Raymond could respond, a sharp beep interrupted their conversation. Zara tapped a device on her wrist, her expression shifting from annoyed to concerned as she read the message. "It's my father," she said, rising quickly. "He's calling an emergency council session. We're needed immediately." They hurried through the corridors, the urgency in the air palpable. As they entered the council chamber, Raymond was struck by the chaos that greeted them. Delegates argued loudly, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of different languages. At the center of it all stood Rhaegar, his face grim. He raised a hand, silencing the room as Raymond and Zara approached. "The situation is dire," Rhaegar announced. "The Vorax spy, Kraz, has revealed under interrogation that their invasion force is much closer than we anticipated. They plan to attack within days." A collective gasp rippled through the chamber. Raymond's mind raced, processing the implications of this new information. Rhaegar turned to Raymond, his expression a mixture of reluctance and desperation. "Mr. Thompson, in light of this development, we find ourselves in need of alternative perspectives. Your species' recent conflicts, while primitive, may provide tactical insights we lack. Would you be willing to share Earth's military expertise?" Raymond nodded solemnly, acutely aware of the opportunity before him. He stepped forward, all eyes in the chamber fixed upon him. "Council members," he began, his voice steady and clear. "The Vorax threat is formidable, but not insurmountable. I propose a strategy that combines Earth's guerrilla warfare tactics with your advanced technology." He outlined his plan, describing how small, agile ships could disrupt the Vorax fleet's rigid formation. Using holographic displays, he demonstrated the potential effectiveness of hit-and-run attacks and feigned retreats designed to lure Vorax ships into vulnerable positions. As he spoke, Raymond could see the skepticism in many delegates' eyes, slowly giving way to consideration. Princess Zara, however, was nodding enthusiastically. "Father," she said, addressing Rigor, "Mr. Thompson's plan has merit. It's unconventional, yes, but that's precisely why it might work. The Vorax won't expect these tactics." Rigor stroked his chin, considering. Other council members began to murmur in agreement. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the building, cutting off further discussion. A Xyloxian security officer burst into the chamber, his normally composed features twisted with panic. "The Vorax!" he shouted. "They're here! They've launched a surprise attack on Xylox!" Chaos erupted once more as council members scrambled to evacuate. Raymond's military training kicked in, his voice cutting through the panic. "Everyone, remain calm," he shouted. "We need to organize a defense immediately." To his surprise, the aliens responded to his authoritative tone. Even Rhaegor looked to him expectantly. "Your Highness," Raymond addressed Rhaegor, "we need to coordinate with your planetary defenses. Princess Zara, I'll need your help to communicate with the different species here." Zara nodded, moving to his side. "I'm with you, Raymond." As they rushed to the planet's defense control center, Raymond's mind whirled with strategies and contingencies. The journey through the building was tense, the distant sounds of explosions growing louder. Rounding a corner, they encountered a group of Vorax infiltrators. Without hesitation, Raymond sprang into action. He ducked under a Vorax energy weapon, closing the distance quickly. His fist connected with the alien's midsection, driving the air from its lungs. In a fluid motion, he disarmed the Vorax and used its own weapon to stun the others. Princess Zara stared at him, wide-eyed. That was impressive. Raymond allowed himself a small smile. "Basic training, Your Highness. Now let's get to that control center." As they finally reached their destination, Raymond took in the holographic displays showing the battle raging in orbit. The Vorax fleet was massive, its ships arranged in a rigid geometric formation that was slowly crushing the Xyloxian defenses. "This is where we change the game," Raymond said, his fingers flying over the alien controls as Zara translated his commands. "Tell your ships to break formation. We're going to show the Vorax something they've never seen before." The Allied fleet began to move, breaking into smaller, more agile groups. They darted between the larger Vorax ships, striking quickly and retreating before the enemy could respond. Raymond's unorthodox tactics began to sow confusion in the Vorax ranks. As the space battle raged, reports came in of Vorax landing parties attacking the planet's surface. Raymond turned to Princess Zara, his expression determined. "Your Highness, I need to coordinate the ground defense. Will you come with me?" Zara's eyes shone with a mixture of fear and excitement. "Lead the way, Mr. Thompson. It seems I have much more to learn about human ingenuity." Together they rushed towards the sound of battle, ready to face whatever challenges the Vorax invasion would bring. Throw at them. As they navigated the chaos-filled streets of Xylox's capital, Raymond's mind raced with strategies. The immediate threat of the Vorax ground forces demanded action, but he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger conflict. "Princess," he said, ducking behind a fallen pillar as energy blasts sizzled overhead, "we need to think beyond this battle. The Vorax won't stop here." Zara nodded, her eyes scanning the area for threats. "What do you propose?" Raymond took a deep breath. "A united defense initiative. We need to bring together all the member species of the Galactic Council, combine our strengths, Earth's unconventional tactics, Xylox's advanced technology, the unique abilities of every race. It's our best chance against the Vorax." Zara's eyes widened. "That's ambitious, but you're right. We need to present this to the council immediately. They fought their way back to the council chambers, rallying scattered defenders and coordinating counterattacks. Raymond's quick thinking and adaptability impressed even the most skeptical alien warriors. When they finally reached the council, Raymond found himself once again addressing the gathered delegates. This time, however, there was no trace of disdain in their eyes, only a mix of fear and desperate hope. "Honored members of the council," Raymond began, his voice steady despite his racing heart, "the Vorax threat is greater than any single world can face alone. I propose a galaxy-wide defense initiative, combining the unique strengths of all our peoples." He outlined his plan, emphasizing the integration of human guerrilla tactics with advanced alien weaponry. As he spoke, holographic displays flickered to life, showing potential strategies and formations. "Mr. Thompson," Rigor said, his voice grave, "your actions today have proven your worth. The Council approves your plan. You will lead this initiative." The next weeks passed in a blur of activity. Raymond worked tirelessly, coordinating with military leaders from dozens of worlds. He established a new command structure, carefully balancing the strengths and cultural sensitivities of each species. Throughout it all, Princess Zara was by his side. Their moments together were brief but intense, stolen between strategy sessions and diplomatic meetings. Zara's insights into alien cultures proved invaluable, helping Raymond navigate complex interspecies dynamics. "You know," Zara said one evening, as they pored over battle plans, "when you first arrived, I never imagined we'd be here." Raymond looked up, caught off guard by the softness in her voice. "Here? Planning the defense of the galaxy?" She smiled, her skin shimmering with a mix of colors Raymond had learned to recognize as affection. "Here, working together, trusting each other. I've learned so much from you, Raymond." He reached out, gently taking her hand. "And I from you, Zara. We make a good team." Their eyes met, and for a moment the weight of their responsibilities seemed to lift. But the moment was shattered by an urgent alert from the communications array. "Vorax ships detected in the Centauri sector," a mechanized voice announced. Raymond sprang into action, his fingers flying over the holographic controls. "They're testing our defenses," he muttered. "Zara, contact the Arcturian fleet. We'll need their phase shift technology to counter this attack." The battle was fierce but short. Raymond's strategies, combining Arcturian technology with denobulan piloting skills, drove back the Vorax forces. But as he studied the after-action reports, a cold feeling settled in his stomach. "They're learning," he told Zara. "Each attack gives them more data on our capabilities. We need something they can't predict, can't adapt to." As if in answer to his concerns, a tall, spindly alien entered the command center. "Mr. Thompson, I am Dr. Zan of Arcturus. I believe I may have a solution to our problem." Dr. Zan's proposal was as brilliant as it was dangerous. Ancient artifacts discovered on a remote world held the key to a powerful defensive technology, but activating them required a unique combination of human and denobulan DNA. "It's risky," Raymond said, looking at Zara, "but it might be our best chance." Zara nodded, her expression determined. "I'm willing if you are." Rhaegor, however, was less enthusiastic. "Absolutely not," he thundered. "I will not risk my daughter on some fool's errand." "Father," Zara said, her voice calm but firm, "this isn't just about me. It's about the survival of our entire galaxy. I must go." As they prepared for the mission, Raymond couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Small accidents plagued their preparations. Equipment failures, miscommunications, near misses that could have been disastrous. "Someone's trying to sabotage us," he told Zara in a hushed voice. "There must be a Vorax spy in the council." Zara's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" Raymond nodded grimly. "We'll need to be careful. I'll start a quiet investigation, but we can't tip off the traitor." Finally, after weeks of preparation and setbacks, they were ready. Raymond, Zara, and a hand-picked team of mixed species boarded their stealth ship, the culmination of dozen world's most advanced technologies. As the ship's engines hummed to life, Raymond received an urgent encrypted message from Earth. His blood ran cold as he read it. "We need to move fast," he told the crew. "The Vorax are planning a full-scale invasion. If we don't unlock those artifacts in time, there might not be a galaxy left to save." The ship lifted off, cloaking systems engaging as they left Xylox's atmosphere. Raymond looked at Zara, seeing his own mix of commitment and fear reflected in her eyes. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The fate of humanity and all alien species depended on it. Their success. The Shadowhawk slipped silently through the vast expanse of space, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to Vorax sensors. Raymond sat at the helm, his fingers dancing across the controls with practiced ease. Princess Zara stood behind him, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing their approach to Zeta-9. "We're entering the planet's atmosphere," Raymond announced, his voice tense. "Brace for turbulence." The ship shuddered as it pierced Zeta-9's thick, purple-tinged atmosphere. Raymond's expert piloting guided them through swirling storm clouds and past jagged mountain peaks. As they descended, the alien landscape came into view, a twisted terrain of sharp rock formations and deep, shadowy crevices. "There," Zara pointed to a relatively flat area surrounded by towering cliffs. "That looks like our best landing spot." Raymond nodded, carefully maneuvering the Shadowhawk into position. As the ship touched down, he activated the external sensors. "Atmosphere is breathable, but barely. We'll need to use our rebreathers." The team disembarked, their boots crunching on the rocky surface. Raymond took point, his Earth military training evident in every cautious movement. Zara followed close behind, her eyes darting from side to side, cataloging the alien flora that clung tenaciously to the inhospitable terrain. Suddenly, a piercing shriek split the air. The team whirled to see a flock of winged creatures diving towards them, razor-sharp talons extended. "Get down!" Raymond shouted, dropping to one knee and raising his energy rifle. He fired a rapid burst, scattering the creatures. Zara crouched beside him, her own weapon at the ready. "Xylaxian razor wings," she said, her voice filled with awe despite the danger. "I've only read about them in xenobiology texts. They're not usually this aggressive." "Something's got them riled up," Raymond replied, scanning the skies. "We need to move. The artifact site should be just over that ridge." They pressed on, Raymond's survival instincts keeping them alert for further threats. As they crested the ridge, a vast structure came into view, an abandoned outpost, its once sleek lines now weathered and overgrown. "By the stars," Zara breathed. "This architecture, it's unlike anything in the Council records." Raymond nodded, his eyes narrowing as he studied the building. "Stay alert. Just because it looks abandoned doesn't mean it is." They approached cautiously, weapons ready. The massive entrance stood open, as if inviting them in. Inside, holographic displays flickered weakly, casting eerie shadows across the dust-covered floor. "This technology," one of the alien team members murmured, "it's far beyond even Xyloxian capabilities." Raymond's instincts tingled. He moved deeper into the structure, his eyes scanning for any sign of the artifacts. A faint energy signature caught his attention, leading him to a seemingly blank wall. "There's something here," he said, running his hand along the smooth surface. His fingers found a barely perceptible seam. "Zara, I need your help." Together they searched the wall, looking for any kind of mechanism. Suddenly, a panel slid open, revealing a complex locking system. Two distinct indentations were clearly visible, one shaped for a human hand, the other for a denobulin. Raymond and Zara exchanged glances. "Dr. Zan was right," Zara said softly. "It needs both of us." They placed their hands in the indentations. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a soft hum filled the air. The wall before them shimmered and vanished, revealing a hidden chamber. Inside, 3 crystalline objects floated in the stasis fields, pulsing with an inner light. Raymond stepped forward, his hand outstretched. As his fingers closed around the first artifact, a shock of energy coursed through him. "Raymond!" Zara cried out in alarm. He shook his head, blinking rapidly. "I'm okay. It's like it's alive." Before Zara could respond, a deafening alarm shattered the silence. The entire structure began to tremble. "We've triggered some kind of security system," Raymond shouted over the noise. "Grab the artifacts and run." They sprinted back through the outpost, the alarm growing louder with each passing second. As they emerged into the open air, the sky was filled with Vorax ships, drawn by the planet-wide alert. "To the Shadowhawk," Raymond ordered, leading the charge back to their ship. Energy blasts from Vorax weapons scorched the ground around them as they ran. Raymond returned fire, his precise shots buying them precious seconds. They reached the ship just as the first Vorax ground forces landed. The Shadowhawk's engines roared to life, lifting them off the surface of Zeta 9. Raymond's hands flew over the controls, executing evasive maneuvers as they climbed through the atmosphere. "Their weapons are charging," Zara warned, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. Raymond gritted his teeth, pushing the ship to its limits. They burst through the cloud cover, the stars of open space beckoning. Behind them, the Vorax fleet gave chase. "Hang on," Raymond called out. He activated the ship's experimental phase shift drive, borrowed from the Arcturians. The Shadowhawk flickered, becoming momentarily intangible. They passed harmlessly through a Vorax cruiser, emerging on the other side. The gambit worked, but at a cost. Alarms blared throughout the ship as systems overloaded. "We're losing power," Zara reported, her fingers dancing across the engineering console. The phase shift damaged the main drive. Raymond scanned the nearby star systems, looking for a safe haven. "There," he said, pointing to a small, rocky moon. "We can land there for repairs." As they approached the moon, the ship's systems fluctuated wildly. Raymond fought the controls, bringing them in for a rough but survivable landing. The team stumbled out, relieved to be on solid ground once more. "We need to work fast," Raymond said, assessing the damage. "The Vorax will be searching for us." As they began repairs, Raymond and Zara carefully examined the artifacts they had risked so much to obtain. In their haste to escape, they hadn't noticed the intricate symbols etched into the crystalline surface. "These look like some kind of control mechanism," Raymond mused, his fingers tracing the patterns. Suddenly, the artifact in his hands pulsed with energy. A shimmering field expanded outward, enveloping the ship and the surrounding area. To their horror, every piece of advanced technology within the field went dark. "What happened?" one of the alien crew members asked, panic edging into his voice. Raymond's mind raced, connecting the dots. "It's a defense system," he realized, "designed to neutralize advanced technology." Zara's eyes widened with understanding. That's why the Vorax have been so unstoppable. Their weapons are useless against this. As the implications of their discovery sank in, Raymond turned his attention back to the ship. "We need to get these repairs done and get back to Xylox. The Council needs to know what we've found." With their advanced tools rendered useless by the artifact's field, Raymond's knowledge of basic mechanics became invaluable. He directed the team in makeshift repairs, improvising solutions with primitive materials. As they worked, Raymond's mind was already racing ahead, formulating plans for a galaxy-wide defense network. But first, they had to make it off this moon and back to friendly space. The clock was ticking, and the hope of the universe hung in the balance. Balance, the fate of billions rested on their success. As the Shadowhawk limped back to Xylox, Raymond's mind raced with the implications of their discovery. The artifact's ability to neutralize advanced technology could be the key to stopping the Vorax invasion. But convincing the Galactic Council to unite behind this plan would be no easy task. Upon landing, Raymond wasted no time. He strode into the council chambers, artifact in hand, Princess Zara at his side. The assembled representatives murmured with curiosity and skepticism. "Esteemed members of the council," Raymond began, his voice steady and clear. "What we found on Zeta 9 changes everything. Allow me to demonstrate." He activated the artifact, and a shimmering field expanded outward. Holographic displays flickered and died. Communication devices fell silent. Gasps and exclamations filled the chamber. "This technology," Raymond explained, "renders the Vorax weapons useless. But to create a galaxy-wide defense, we need your help." Over the next days, Raymond organized a series of demonstrations. He stood before the council as Vorax weapons, captured in the previous skirmishes, were fired at targets protected by the artifact's field. The energy blast dissipated harmlessly. Princess Zara moved among the representatives, her diplomatic skills on full display. She addressed concerns, mediated disputes, and built consensus. Her ability to navigate the complex web of interspecies politics proved invaluable. The Cephians worry about the impact on their biotech, she informed Raymond quietly, and the Volaxians are concerned about their psychic abilities. Raymond nodded, his brow furrowed in thought. We'll need to fine-tune the field. Maybe we can create exclusions for benign technologies. As support for the plan grew, Raymond presented his boldest proposal yet. He stood before a holographic display of the galaxy. The council members gathered around. We create a central hub here on Xylox, he explained, pointing to a pulsing dot at the center of the map. By channeling the combined genetic material of all council species, we can amplify the artifact's power. The defensive field will extend across the entire galaxy. Murmurs of approval mixed with skepticism. A Taurian general named Grok stepped forward, his massive frame dominating the room. This plan is weak, Grok bellowed. We should use these artifacts as weapons, annihilate the Vorax before they reach our borders. Raymond's eyes narrowed. He had anticipated this argument. General Grok, I understand your desire for a decisive victory, but weaponizing this technology carries unacceptable risks. Allow me to show you. In a controlled environment, Raymond demonstrated how an offensive use of the artifact's power could create an uncontrollable chain reaction. The holographic simulation showed entire star systems consumed by the expanding field of technological nullification. The council chambers fell silent. Even Grok seemed taken aback by the potential for destruction. As preparations for the hub began, Raymond noticed Princess Zara deep in conversation with her father, Rhaegor. Her expression was troubled. What's wrong? Raymond asked as she approached. Zara's voice was low, urgent. I've uncovered something disturbing. Grok had prior contact with Krell, the exposed Vorax spy. Raymond's mind raced. We need to investigate, quietly. They moved through the corridors of the council complex, using Zara's access codes to enter restricted areas. In Grok's quarters, they discovered a hidden communication device of Vorax design. He's been working against us this whole time, Raymond said, his voice tight with anger. They presented their evidence to Rhaegor and the council leadership. Grok, cornered by the damning proof, attempted to flee. Raymond moved to intercept him, but Zara was faster. With a swift motion, she activated a stun field, immobilizing the traitor. With Grok's treachery exposed, the last remnants of opposition to Raymond's plan crumbled. Construction of the central hub accelerated, teams working around the clock. Raymond oversaw the integration of the artifacts into the hub's core, his hands steady as he made delicate adjustments. Nearby, Princess Zara coordinated the collection of genetic samples from each council species. We're nearly there, Raymond said, wiping sweat from his brow. But we're going to need more power, a lot more. Zara looked at him, concern in her eyes. How much more? Raymond's expression was grim. More than Xylox's entire power grid can provide. We're going to have to tap into the planet's core. As they presented this risky plan to Rhaegor, alarms blared throughout the complex. The Vorax fleet had entered the outer reaches of the Xylox system. Rhaegor's face was etched with worry, but he nodded. Do what you must, Raymond. The fate of our galaxy depends on it. Raymond led a team into Xylox's geothermal facilities, working feverishly to modify the planet's energy grid. Above, the combined council fleet engaged the first wave of Vorax ships in a desperate holding action. As Raymond made the final adjustments, he felt the ground beneath his feet tremble. He looked at the power readouts, watching as energy levels climbed to unprecedented heights. This is it, he said into his communicator. Zara, are you ready up there? In the hub chamber, Princess Zara stood surrounded by representatives from every council species. Each placed their hand on a connection point, their genetic signatures feeding into the artifact's matrix. Ready, Raymond? She replied, her voice steady despite the stakes. The council stands united. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Raymond took a deep breath, his hand hovering over the final activation switch. The future of the galaxy hung in the balance, waiting for his next move. Move. The colossal energy demands of the system caused the floor beneath Raymond's feet to vibrate violently. He gritted his teeth, focusing on the task at hand as sweat beaded on his forehead. Initiating final power transfer sequence, Raymond announced into his communicator, his fingers flying over the control panel. The readouts before him blazed with warnings, the energy levels pushing far beyond their designed limits. Suddenly, a deafening rumble shook the entire facility. Raymond stumbled, catching himself on the edge of the console. The vibrations intensified, and he could hear the distant sound of alarms blaring throughout the complex. "Raymond!" Zara's voice crackled over the comm. "The Vorax have broken through our outer defenses. They're bombarding the surface." Raymond's mind raced, weighing their options. "We're out of time," he said, his voice tight with tension. "I'm activating the grid now. Brace for impact." With a final adjustment, Raymond slammed his hand down on the activation switch. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. The entire planet seemed to lurch beneath him as the core's energy was redirected to the central hub. The lights in the facility flickered and died, plunging Raymond into darkness, broken only by the glow of emergency backup systems. "Grid activated," Raymond reported, his voice barely audible over the cacophony of alarms and rumbling machinery. "I'm heading to the hub. What's your status, Zara?" "We're ready," she replied, her voice strained but determined. "But hurry, Raymond. The Vorax are getting closer." Raymond sprinted through the darkened corridors of the facility, guided by the dim glow of emergency lighting. He could feel the tremors intensifying with each step, the very foundations of the planet groaning under the strain of their bold strategy. As he burst into the hub chamber, Raymond's eyes widened at the scene before him. The massive spherical room was a hive of frantic activity. Council representatives from every species stood at their designated connection ports, surrounding the pulsing artifact-powered device at the center. Princess Zara moved among them, her face a mask of concentration as she made final adjustments. "Raymond!" she called out, relief evident in her voice. "We're almost—" Her words were cut short by a thunderous explosion that rocked the chamber. The main doors blew inward, twisted metal and debris scattering across the floor. Through the smoke and chaos, Raymond caught glimpses of Vorax commandos pouring into the room, their weapons blazing. "Defensive positions!" Raymond shouted, his military training kicking in instantly. He dove behind a nearby console, drawing his sidearm. Around the chamber, Council security forces engaged the Vorax invaders, the air filling with energy blasts and the acrid smell of weapons fire. Raymond's mind raced as he assessed the situation. Several council representatives lay injured or unconscious, their connection ports dark and inactive. Without full representation from each species, the hub couldn't be activated. "Zara," he called out, spotting the princess taking cover behind a fallen pillar. "We need to complete the connections." She nodded, understanding immediately. Together they moved through the battlefield, Raymond providing covering fire while Zara tended to the wounded. As they reached the human delegate's position, Raymond made a split-second decision. "I'll take his place," he said, helping Zara move the injured man to safety. "You finish the preparations. I'll hold them off as long as I can." Zara hesitated for a moment, her eyes meeting Raymond's. In that brief exchange, a wealth of unspoken emotions passed between them. Then she nodded, squeezing his hand before racing to the hub's control center. Raymond took his position at the human connection port, one hand on the interface, the other still gripping his weapon. He fired off precise shots, downing Vorax commandos with each squeeze of the trigger. But more kept coming, their relentless advance threatening to overwhelm the chamber's defenders. As Raymond fought, he noticed a critical flaw in the hub's design. The system was drawing heavily on the genetic material of the connected representatives, putting them at risk of severe biological drain. Without hesitation, Raymond made a crucial modification, redirecting the bulk of the strain onto himself. "Zara, now!" he shouted, feeling the first waves of energy coursing through his body. Princess Zara slammed her hand down on the activation panel. The artifacts at the hub's center pulsed with blinding light, and a wave of energy exploded outward. Raymond gasped as he felt the full force of the hub's power surge through him, every cell in his body screaming in protest. The effect on the Vorax was immediate and dramatic. Their weapons sputtered and died, advanced armor systems powering down. The invaders stumbled, suddenly finding themselves vulnerable and confused. But Raymond hardly noticed. His entire being was consumed by the task of channeling the hub's incredible power. He could feel the defensive field expanding, first encompassing Xylox, then stretching out across the star system and beyond. Through the haze of pain and exertion, Raymond was dimly aware of the sounds of battle fading away, replaced by cries of victory and amazement. He forced his eyes open, catching a glimpse of Vorax ships visible through the chamber's viewports, drifting powerless in space. "It's working," he managed to gasp, his vision beginning to blur. "We did it." As the defensive field reached its full galactic extent, Raymond felt his strength failing. His legs buckled, and he collapsed to the floor, his connection to the hub finally broken. The last thing Raymond saw before consciousness slipped away was Princess Zara rushing to his side, her face a mask of concern and fear. As darkness closed in around him, Raymond allowed himself a small smile. They had won. The galaxy was safe. But at what cost? Cost. Raymond's world faded to black as the last vestiges of consciousness slipped away. The next thing he knew, a cacophony of beeps and hums surrounded him. Raymond's eyelids felt heavy, but he managed to crack them open, squinting against the harsh light. He found himself in a sterile white room, surrounded by medical equipment of various alien designs. A warm pressure on his hand drew his attention. Princess Zara sat slumped in a chair beside his bed, her fingers intertwined with his. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her usually immaculate hair was disheveled. As Raymond stirred, Zara's eyes fluttered open. "Raymond," she whispered, her voice thick with exhaustion and hope. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry and raw. Instead, he gave her hand a weak squeeze. Zara's face lit up with joy, tears welling in her eyes. "You're awake," she said, her voice trembling. "I thought we almost lost you." A doctor entered the room, his blue skin marking him as a Centaurian. "Ah, our hero awakens," he said, checking the various monitors surrounding Raymond's bed. "You've been in a coma-like state for a week, Ambassador. Your body took quite a shock from the hub activation." Over the next few days, Raymond's strength slowly returned. Zara rarely left his side, delegating her royal duties to focus on his recovery. A steady stream of visitors filed through his room, council members, military leaders, and even those who had once doubted him. On the third day of Raymond's recovery, the door slid open to reveal an unexpected guest. Rhaegar, imposing even without his formal regalia, stepped into the room. Zara stood, surprise evident on her face. "Father," she began, but Rhaegar held up a hand. "I've come to speak with Ambassador Raymond," he said, his voice gruff but not unkind. He turned to Raymond, who had managed to prop himself up in bed. "I owe you an apology, human. I was wrong to dismiss you and your people. You've saved not just our world, but our entire galaxy." Raymond nodded, accepting the apology with grace. "Thank you, Rhaegar. But it wasn't just me. It was the unity of all our species that made this possible." As Raymond's recovery progressed, he began working with Dr. Zan and a team of scientists to study the artifacts in the newly activated defense network. They discovered that while the network was stable, it would require periodic recharging using the genetic essence of council species. This could be the foundation for a new era of cooperation, Raymond mused during one of their research sessions. A tangible reason for our species to work together regularly. 2 months after the Vorax defeat, Raymond stood before the Galactic Council once again. The chamber, once filled with derision at his presence, now erupted in a standing ovation as he entered. Rhaegar raised his hands for silence. "Honored members of the Council," Rhaegar's voice boomed across the chamber. "In light of recent events, I propose 2 significant changes. First, Earth is to be granted full membership in the Council, with Raymond as humanity's permanent representative." Murmurs of approval rippled through the crowd. Rhaegar continued, "Secondly, I announce my intention to step down as Council leader. I nominate Raymond as my successor." A hush fell over the chamber, followed by a swell of voices as council members discussed the proposal. When the vote was called, it was unanimous. Raymond stepped forward, his face a mix of humility and tenacity. "I am honored by your trust," he began. "As we enter this new era, I propose a bold initiative, a galactic exploration program. Mixed species crews will venture into unknown regions of space, expanding our knowledge and strengthening the bonds between our peoples." The proposal was met with enthusiasm. As the session concluded, Raymond found himself surrounded by well-wishers and supporters. Through the crowd, he caught Zara's eye. She beamed at him, pride and something deeper shining in her gaze. Weeks later, a grand ceremony was held to celebrate the new era of peace and Raymond's appointment as Galactic Council leader. As he stood before the massive crowd of humans and aliens alike, Raymond felt the weight of history on his shoulders. Zara joined him on stage, resplendent in her royal attire. Raymond took a deep breath, his hand slipping into his pocket. He dropped to one knee, presenting a small box containing a ring crafted from metals of all council worlds. "Princess Zara," he said, his voice carrying across the hushed crowd, "will you marry me?" Zara's eyes widened, a smile spreading across her face. "Yes," she breathed, then louder. "Yes." As they embraced, the crowd erupted in cheers. Raymond caught sight of Rhaegar nodding in approval, a rare smile on the old leader's face. Later, as Raymond and Zara boarded the lead ship of the new exploration fleet, they paused at the viewport. The vastness of space stretched before them, filled with endless possibilities. "Ready for our next adventure?" Raymond asked, squeezing Zara's hand. She smiled up at him. "With you? Always." The ship's engines hummed to life, and they accelerated into the star-studded expanse. As Xylox shrank behind them, Raymond reflected on the journey that had brought him here. From a ridiculed diplomat to the leader of a united galaxy and the future husband of an alien princess, life, it seemed, had a way of exceeding even the wildest dreams. The ship entered faster than light travel, stars blurring into streaks of light. Raymond and Zara stood hand in hand, ready to face whatever wonders and challenges awaited them in the vast, unexplored reaches of the cosmos.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.